It was supposed to be a fresh beginning. In the late 1500s, England was desperate to claim a foothold in the New World. Across the Atlantic lay land filled with promise, fertile soil, endless resources, and the chance to build something permanent. Something powerful. That dream led 115 men, women, and children to a small island off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Its name was Roanoke. At first, the settlement felt hopeful. Houses were built. Supplies were unloaded. Crops were planted. This was meant to be England's first permanent colony in America. A symbol that they belonged in this new world. But from the very beginning, something felt wrong. The land was unfamiliar. The climate was harsher than expected. Relations with nearby native tribes were uncertain, shifting between cautious cooperation and quiet tension. Food supplies ran low faster than planned. And then came the decision that would seal Roanoke's fate. The colony's governor, John White, was forced to return to England to gather more supplies. The settlers begged him to hurry. He promised he would. Before leaving, they agreed on a simple signal. If the colony was forced to move, they would carve the name of their new location into a tree or post. If they left under danger, they would carve a cross beside it. White sailed away in 1587 and vanished into history. War with Spain delayed his return. Ships were scarce. Years passed. 3 long years. When White finally made it back to Roanoke in 1590, he arrived on his birthday. What he found was not a colony. It was silence. The houses were gone. Not destroyed. Dismantled. Carefully taken apart. No signs of struggle. No broken weapons. No scattered belongings. The fort stood empty, overgrown, and eerily quiet. Then he saw it. Carved into a wooden post was a single word. CROATOAN. No cross. No blood. No bodies. Just a message. White searched desperately. He called out names. He looked for signs of forced removal or violence. There were none. It was as if the entire colony had simply walked away. Together. And never returned. The word CROATOAN referred to a nearby island and a friendly native tribe. White believed it meant the settlers had relocated there. But a storm prevented him from sailing to investigate. And then fate intervened again. White was forced to return to England. He never saw Roanoke again. The colonists were never found. No remains. No confirmed records. No survivors. Only a question that has haunted history for over 400 years. What happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? And more unsettling still, how does an entire settlement disappear without leaving a trace? The moment John White's ship disappeared over the horizon, Roanoke became vulnerable. The settlers were on their own in a land that was still largely unknown to them. No reinforcements. No steady supply line. No guarantee of survival. They had food, tools, and hope, but not enough of any of them. Life on Roanoke was hard from the start. The soil was difficult to farm. Fresh water was limited. Hunting and fishing helped, but not enough to support a growing population. Disease was always a threat. And the seasons were unforgiving. But the greatest danger wasn't the land. It was isolation. The colony depended on cooperation with nearby native tribes. Some relationships were peaceful. Others were strained. Mistrust ran deep on both sides, shaped by earlier conflicts with English explorers. Every decision mattered. Stay and struggle? Move inland? Seek protection elsewhere? As months passed with no sign of White's return, fear quietly settled in. Supplies dwindled. Children grew weaker. Adults began to realize something terrifying. Help might never come. This is where the mystery deepens. Because the settlers didn't panic. There is no evidence of chaos. No signs of a desperate last stand. No burned buildings or scattered belongings. Instead, everything suggests planning. Houses were dismantled, not destroyed. Valuable items were taken. This wasn't a sudden evacuation. It was a decision made over time. Which raises a critical question. Why would an entire colony abandon a fortified settlement willingly? Some historians believe the settlers slowly integrated with local tribes. Survival may have required cooperation. Joining the CROATOAN people could have offered food, protection, and knowledge of the land. Others believe pressure from hostile tribes forced them to move, even if there was no violent confrontation at Roanoke itself. The danger may have been nearby, unseen, but felt. And then there's another possibility. That the colonists realized Roanoke was never meant to succeed. They may have known the location was wrong. The land unstable. The risks too great. Leaving could have felt like the only logical choice. But if that's true, why leave behind such a vague message? Why carve only one word? Why not explain what happened? Unless they believed someone would follow. Unless they believed John White would return soon. Every day the settlers waited made their situation worse. Every passing month increased the risk of starvation or disease. At some point, staying became more dangerous than leaving. And so, they disappeared. Not in one night. Not in panic. But gradually. Families packing what they could carry. Children walking beside parents. A community moving together into uncertainty. Where they went is still unknown. But what they left behind tells us something important. Roanoke wasn't destroyed. It was abandoned. And whatever decision the settlers made next, it erased them from history. John White expected relief. Instead, he found emptiness. When his ship finally anchored off the coast of Roanoke in 1590, 3 years had passed since he left. 3 years of storms, war, and delay. 3 years in which the colony waited, and then stopped waiting. White stepped onto the island filled with hope and dread. He called out names. Listened for voices. Looked for smoke rising from fires. There was nothing. The settlement was silent in a way that felt unnatural. Grass had grown where paths once were. Wood had begun to rot. Nature was slowly reclaiming the place where people once lived. But what shocked White most was what he didn't see. No signs of battle. No burned buildings. No scattered weapons. No graves. If the settlers had been attacked, there would have been evidence. If they had been taken by force, something would have been left behind. Instead, the houses were carefully taken apart. Planks removed. Posts pulled from the ground. This wasn't destruction. It was dismantling. The kind you do when you plan to reuse material somewhere else. That detail alone changes everything. It suggests time. Planning. Choice. White searched the fort and surrounding area desperately. He climbed watchtowers. Walked the shoreline. Looked for signs of boats or trails leading inland. Then he saw it. Carved clearly into a wooden post was a single word. CROATOAN. No cross. No symbol of distress. Just the name. White immediately remembered their agreement. If the settlers left willingly, they would carve their destination. If they were forced or in danger, they would carve a cross beside it. There was no cross. That detail haunted him. It suggested the settlers left by choice. Or at least, without immediate threat. White believed this meant they had gone to CROATOAN Island, home to a native tribe that had been friendly to the English. Hope returned. He wanted to sail there immediately. But nature intervened again. A powerful storm struck the coast. Ships were damaged. Supplies were low. The crew refused to continue the journey. Against his will, White was forced to abandon the search. For the second time, he left Roanoke behind. This time, forever. White returned to England and never made it back to the New World. The colony faded from official concern. England moved on. New settlements were planned elsewhere. Roanoke became a footnote. But the mystery didn't fade. Because White's account left behind impossible questions. If the settlers went to CROATOAN, why were they never confirmed there? If they joined a tribe, why was there no record of their survival? If they moved inland, why was nothing else carved or written? The word CROATOAN became history's most haunting message. Not an explanation. Not a confession. A direction. And yet, no one ever followed it far enough to find the truth. One word. That's all Roanoke left behind. No letter. No journal. No plea for help. Just to CROATOAN. Carved deliberately. Cleanly. Not rushed. Not scratched in panic. It wasn't hidden. It was placed where it would be seen. That alone tells us something important. Whoever carved that word wanted it to be found. CROATOAN was not a mystery to John White. It was the name of a nearby island, and also the name of a native tribe that had been friendly to the English settlers. They traded with them, helped them survive, taught them about the land. If the colony had to leave, CROATOAN was the most logical place to go. But logic doesn't equal certainty. Because when later expeditions searched the area, they didn't find the settlers. No confirmed English artifacts. No clear signs of a large group merging into the tribe. No written records from the CROATOAN people themselves describing such an event. Which makes that carved word deeply unsettling. Was it a destination? Or a warning? Some historians believe the word may not have meant the island at all. That it could have been a clue, not a location. A reference to something else entirely. A signal that made sense only to those who were there. Others believe the message was incomplete. What if they planned to leave more information later? What if they expected White to arrive sooner? 3 years is a long time. Time enough for things to change. For plans to fail. For danger to arrive after the carving was done. Because here's the chilling detail. There was no cross. According to their agreement, a cross meant they left under force or threat. The absence of a cross suggests they left willingly. But what if they didn't have time to add it? What if something happened shortly after? The word CROATOAN may have been carved at the beginning of the move, not the end of the story. Another theory suggests the settlers intentionally removed all traces of English life. Dismantling buildings. Taking supplies. Leaving nothing behind that could be looted or used against them. Almost like they wanted Roanoke erased. As if staying connected to England was no longer safe. And then there's the strangest idea of all. What if CROATOAN was never meant for John White? What if it was meant for someone else? A signal to another group? A code? A message understood only by those who needed to see it? Because in the years that followed, no official effort was made to deeply investigate CROATOAN Island. No large-scale search. No serious follow-up. The trail went cold. That single word became a locked door in history. It points somewhere, but never opens. And until we understand why it was carved, and what happened after, Roanoke remains suspended between survival and disappearance. Because messages like that are never carved without reason. And the reason may be far darker than relocation. An entire colony doesn't disappear quietly. At least, it shouldn't. Yet Roanoke did. When later explorers passed through the area, they expected to find something. Broken tools. Graves. Ruins. Any trace that 115 people once lived, worked, and raised children on that island. They found almost nothing. The houses weren't burned. The fort wasn't destroyed. It was as if the settlement had been carefully packed up and erased. This detail matters more than it seems. If the colonists were attacked, there would be chaos. Weapons left behind. Signs of struggle. Bodies. Even time cannot erase violence completely. But Roanoke showed no such scars. Instead, the structures were dismantled. Timber removed. Nails taken. Materials reused. That suggests intention. Planning. Time. Which raises the most unsettling question of all. How long did it take them to leave? Historians believe the colony may have slowly dissolved rather than vanished overnight. Families leaving in groups. Some heading toward CROATOAN Island. Others possibly moving inland, following rivers, seeking food and protection. If this happened, the colony didn't disappear. It fragmented. And fragmentation is harder to trace than destruction. Some researchers believe the settlers were absorbed into nearby tribes. There are later accounts from native communities describing people with lighter skin, grey eyes, or European features. Even reports of tribes that spoke English words generations later. But none of this is definitive. No DNA evidence. No written confirmation. No undeniable proof. Only stories. And then there's the darker possibility that the settlers did survive. But not all of them. Disease was common. Malnutrition weakened immune systems. A harsh winter could have killed many. Survivors may have been forced to assimilate just to stay alive. History rarely preserves the voices of the desperate, especially when those voices don't belong to conquerors. Another theory suggests the colonists moved inland to escape threats. But inland travel was dangerous. Unknown territory. Hostile tribes. Limited resources. One wrong decision could erase a group forever. And yet, there were no mass graves. No discovered camps. No trail leading away from Roanoke. Which leaves us with a haunting absence. No ending. No aftermath. No closure. It's as if the settlers stepped out of the story entirely. And when history loses people like that, it usually means one thing. Their fate wasn't meant to be recorded. Because sometimes, survival doesn't look like victory. Sometimes, it looks like becoming invisible. For years, historians believed Roanoke left behind nothing but questions. But that wasn't entirely true. Hidden in plain sight were clues that went unnoticed, dismissed, or misunderstood for centuries. One of the most overlooked pieces of evidence was John White's own map. Decades after the disappearance, researchers examining the map noticed faint markings beneath its surface. When analyzed with modern imaging, symbols appeared, shapes that looked like forts or settlements hidden under pasted layers. One marking pointed inland, far from Roanoke Island, toward an area along the Albemarle Sound. Why would White hide this information? Some believe the markings were added after his return to England. A secret he couldn't openly share. A location too dangerous, too uncertain, or too politically sensitive to reveal publicly. If true, it suggests White may have suspected where the colonists went, but never said it out loud. Then there are the warnings. Early explorers and settlers reported hearing rumors from native tribes about Europeans living inland. Not prisoners. Not victims. people who had blended in, adopted new lives, new identities. These reports were recorded and ignored. England had moved on. Jamestown had been established. Roanoke was an embarrassment, a failure best forgotten. So the clues were shelved. Another ignored detail was timing. The colonists disappeared during a period of severe drought. Tree ring evidence confirms this. Crops would have failed. Food would have been scarce. Survival would have demanded drastic decisions. Leaving Roanoke may not have been a choice. It may have been the only option. But even with drought, maps, and tribal accounts, no serious effort was made to reconnect the dots. No large inland expeditions. No follow-up settlement sent to investigate. Roanoke was allowed to vanish. And that may be the most disturbing part of all. Because history doesn't just forget by accident. Sometimes it forgets by design. Warnings were there. Clues existed. Maps whispered secrets. But no one listened. And when clues are ignored long enough, they don't disappear. They wait. When evidence runs out, theories move in. And Roanoke has produced some of the most enduring theories in history, not because they are wild, but because none of them can be fully dismissed. The most accepted theory is assimilation. That the settlers joined nearby native tribes to survive. Hunger, drought, and isolation may have pushed them toward cooperation rather than conflict. Over time, English names faded. Language changed. Children grew up native rather than English. Supporters point to later reports of tribes with European features and customs. Grey eyes. English words. Christian practices. But assimilation leaves no clean records. It leaves blended bloodlines and lost identities, which makes it nearly impossible to prove. Another theory suggests relocation inland. The colonists may have followed rivers towards safer land, away from coastal threats and storms. Maps and hidden markings support this idea. But inland travel was dangerous. Disease, hostile encounters, and starvation could have wiped them out slowly. No single tragedy. Just quiet extinction. Then there is the violent theory that the settlers were killed by hostile tribes. But this theory struggles the most. There is no evidence of a massacre. No burned fort. No remains. Violence leaves traces, and Roanoke left none. Which leads to a more uncomfortable idea. That something happened after they left. They survived the move. But not what came next. Some believe the colony split. Small groups heading in different directions. Some survived. Others didn't. History only remembers what survives together. And then there are the theories history doesn't like to talk about. That Roanoke encountered something unknown. An epidemic. A conflict erased from record. A disaster that left no witnesses. Not supernatural. Just lost. Because history is written by those who remain. And Roanoke didn't. That's why these theories refuse to die. Because every one of them explains part of the mystery. But none of them explain all of it. And that brings us to the final question. After more than 4 centuries, Roanoke still feels unfinished. Not like a tragedy with an ending, but like a story interrupted. Because the real mystery isn't how the colony disappeared. It's whether it disappeared at all. What if the settlers survived, just not as settlers? What if they lived long lives, raised families, and slowly became something else? People without records. Without names England would recognize. People absorbed into a world history chose not to remember. That possibility is uncomfortable. Because it suggests the lost colony wasn't destroyed. It was erased. Not by violence, not by monsters, but by time, survival, and the simple act of adapting. If Roanoke's people lived on, then history didn't lose them. It just stopped looking. And if they didn't survive, then they vanished without witnesses, without graves, and without answers. Both possibilities are equally haunting, because one means the colony died quietly, forgotten by the world that sent it there. The other means the colony lived, but was never allowed back into history. The word CROATOAN remains the only voice they left behind. Not a goodbye. Not a confession. A direction. Maybe Roanoke isn't a mystery meant to be solved. Maybe it's a reminder. That exploration comes with cost. That survival sometimes means erasing who you were. And that history only remembers what fits its story. Until physical proof is found, bones, DNA, or undeniable records, Roanoke will remain exactly what it is now. Not a myth. Not a fact. A question. And perhaps the most unsettling part of all. The lost colony didn't leave evidence of death. Only evidence of leaving. And sometimes, that's even harder to explain.